We are here with Daina Taimina to give her presentation, Traveling with a Mathematician. And this is our 21st of 21 amazing presentations at our October celebration of mind. Daina wants you to know that this presentation is going to be different. It's not about what she is famous for, the hyperbolic plane. Daina will present pictures collected during her travels with David Henderson. This presentation will answer the question, why does her book have so many pictures?
Good evening, and thank you for being so patient and coming to all the talks and everything. And I'm really very touched that this is I'm giving an honor to give like this very end of a talk. So the 21st of 21st talks. So well, and yes, and then when thinking like what to talk about this, and I thought that it would be like a time to talk about like my travels. I was just so one of the reviewers of my as was already said, it said like my book looked like a travel book, and that's indeed was a travel book. So because we did a lot of traveling with David, and we met at the ICME study conference in Sicily in 1995, and each of us had a various life travels behind, but from there our travels came together. So this picture is taken 10 years after we met, and we did met on the top of Mount Etna. And so well, and I had written a David's biography, which where I attempted to show his travels from highly successful abstract mathematical world to much more real area of mathematics education. And he's known for when we met, he had like first edition of Experience in Geometry just came out of a print. So I compiled like a fourth edition, which we started to work both together, and but that was brutally cut short. And I wrote like his biography, which is included in this book, which books following like David's wish. It's an open source book, and it's published on Project Euclid. And then in a book, I put like a chapter which is called In a Search of Meaning, where I attempted to write the David's biography, which was supposed to appear in notices of AMS, but so for some reason it didn't. That project didn't work out. But anyways, that's where it is available. And for those who hasn't seen how David was teaching, so there is a example of his teaching on YouTube, and that is this other link. So yes, please look at that. And then it's actually, that's David is teaching exactly at the time when we met. So well, let me now share some of the memories, how it was traveling with him. For a fall 1988, when he was teaching Math 451, Experience in Geometry class in Cornell, he wrote that mathematics is a way of looking at your world. Take charge of it, make it yours, understand how you see things, and how you understand things. Mathematics can say something about you. Think of what we are embarking together as a stroll in the woods. I will show you a path that I have trodden point to what I have seen. I have been there many times before, but oh, there is much more to see that I have not yet seen. You, with your unique vision, will point out to me things that I have passed by. Feel free to explore, look under stones, down in hollow stumps. You can look up a straight tree and see the sky. You can find a rivulet of a water. What it followed will lead to the sea. But just as valuable are the little surprises that spark somewhere, something inside, a trillium in a spot of sun, a scarlet ant wriggling under the falling leaf. Do not hurry to get somewhere. Linger a while. Listen. See what's around where you are. For those who were coming to Cornell, for experiencing geometry workshops, you may remember that each of these workshops, like a requirement, was the last, like end of the workshop was happening in Upper Treman Park, where David was taking all the workshop participants. And that was to show you that straight lines exist in nature. I don't remember where, but he had read somebody who said there are no straight lines or right angles in the nature. So, and therefore he always took visitors and geometry workshop participants to the Treman Park, and he said, like, see, here they are. So that was him. And then here is like a trillium, which was like a really very favorite. And then also when we were walking like in a woods, here that was kind of like a finding these leaves with a different symmetries. And so this was one of these attempts. You can see there is a 3, 4, 5, and 6 symmetries, or like a linear symmetry in a fern. Then when we would travel, you would see like these pictures. So this one, which is here on the top, yes, so that is made by wind and water, but it's taken picture because it's showing like a positive and negative curvature. And these were the pictures. I was mostly taking pictures, and David would point out and say like, oh, take this picture. This is like so nice. That will be good illustration for a book. And so that was first it was like a book, Differential Geometry. Then it was Experiencing Geometry. And then I was taking taking pictures also when I was writing my book. So, and that's the only thing I would just like show you, like this Crocheting Adventures, which looks like a travel book. So that the picture on the top right, that was like David noticed, like when we were in Bruges, he says, oh, see, there is a ruler triangle in that cathedral. And it was like, and that was a time we were working, writing history about mechanical collection in Cornell, or walking in Brooklyn. Oh, take a picture of that. Like, see, there is it's not like only in the bathrooms, but there is also like this hexagon tiling on a sidewalk. And I don't remember what he was like doing with this sculpture, you might see. So yes, but then he was like definitely checking some kind of like, are these like, is this geometrically correct? And then this panoramic picture, that was when we needed like to show how the positive curvature turns into negative, and there should be somewhere 0 in between. Not very. So then there is a story about like these anchor rings. See, I wasn't a topologist, and I didn't know what anchor ring means in topology. For me, anchoring, okay, there is an anchor, there is a chain, that must be it. So when I travel, David says like, get me a picture of an anchor ring. Fine, I see the anchor, I see a ring, I bring a picture. Well, it's not what I said. I said anchor ring. I said, well, there is a ring, there is a chain. No, that's not. Well, until finally we were like in Dublin. I guess that was like when I finally, that's the picture up on the top. And that's when he said, this is an anchor ring. And then he explained it to me. So, well, when I was writing later the book, and okay, of course, then I knew that's for a two-hole torus and what the anchor ring is. But that was my story. Or his fascination with various helixes and helicoids and strikes and so well, and then I have a bunch of these pictures every time I took a picture. The one with that red one, that is David came back from a workshop in Florida, and he said, oh, I got such a good picture. So, well, yes, and that was the only picture he brought me home from Florida. That is like with this, with this Archimedean screw. So, well, it's or we've also, so various pictures. That is like this helix in Chicago or even in Sicily when we were visiting. So then we were like finding, oh yeah, no, there is a nice one that is like for his book and or Vatican. Then noticing various instruments, and particularly he always noticed where there are 4 linkages. I have been like pointed out, oh, see, there is a four bar linkage, and on an upper top picture. So there is a 4 bar linkage in that. So is a crane, but then there is like this picture doesn't show well the front of a ship, but then from David I learned that the front of the ship, it has a very nice negative curvature, and that reminded him about his first working in Philadelphia shipyard, and that's where he had to calculate and do the calculations. So every time we would pass a shipyard, and then when the ships were out in the dry docks, he would point out, look, that's where the ship has a negative curvature. Or you can see like this finding, like where's Da Vinci. So there is like this Da Vinci infinite, like Da Vinci gears. And so, well, when he pointed out where I can see that. So it was like, so then another thing was trying to find the right reflection in Chicago. You probably recognize, if you have been there, so recognize like this egg, as they call it. But then I had to find like oh no, you take it. And then he was like saying, no, that's not the right reflection, until I had to really polish my skills and get the reflection in a way how he wanted to. So that's David was working in Algebra Project, and he was writing like a materials in school, talking about like 1 and 2 point perspective. So well, I had to find pictures and take pictures for where we are having like 1 or 2 point perspective. So that was like ours. Sometimes taking pictures and checking ideas, so can lead us like to dangerous situations. So well, so these 2 photos are from Milan. It happened that my work was in exhibit in Milan, and that was exactly David's 70th birthday. So here we are both there at the opening, like near my work. But and then there were like things that, of course, we enjoyed facade of Milan's cathedral, and then checking like all these. So well, how like this architecture and well known. But my present to David for his 70th birthday was so getting tickets to see Da Vinci's Last Supper. And well, here we are. There are about like 20 people. We go there through several very secure doors. We can't have any cameras, anything. You know, it's like it's a very well guarded place. So we get in there, and so like can stand there. And of course, we have seen like many times and taught many times like this. So how Da Vinci was using perspective for this painting. Well, definitely we both need to check that the point of perspective we have learned that so this vanishing point. So like or this like so that it is on the top of Christ's head. So of course we are standing in front, so we don't have like anything. So we are trying to put like with the fingers, just like trying these lines, and I'm really trying to recreate. Yeah, so how it goes into this painting. David says, no, fingers are not working. So he's taking out, he had like a black notebook, and he takes a black notebook. So we really have a real light real straight lines, and then like we are both trying to fix. Of course, there are coming like now security guards from both sides, and they are saying no photos, show your hands. I show my hands, I have nothing. David has like his notebook, and the security guards very suspiciously look at us and, what are you doing here? I look at them and I explain to them that we are mathematicians. Well, their looks were, they really looked, said nothing, and just sort of like stepped back, but I kind of like, I could read their mind, what they were thinking about us. So the other things, like of course, where we were checking the very popular like these paintings, and so of course we need to check like perspective in these paintings, and that was a day which we spent in Vatican museums, and here is a David in front of this famous picture, and under the supposedly near the painting where the Euclid is, and no, that's on another side, but anyways, that's where he chose to be. And when I was taking a picture, I didn't have a good camera, sorry, that's not a very high quality picture, but then you can see that when I take a picture, that is not really a right perspective. And we started to find, like that was without security guards. It's a small room, and we were trying to find from where do you need to look at this picture. And apparently there is a door on opposite wall from this fresco. There is a small door in one corner, and that's where the point is. It's very interesting. It was like such a discovery, like how to see that painting. So it's not standing right in front of it. It will really have to be like sideways a little bit. And then of course there was like in Dublin, we went to see where, get inspiration, where Hamilton discovered his quaternions. And unfortunately, neither of us got any divine inspiration there, but it was quite a challenge for us to find the place. But it was fun. Or walking when we were in Paris, and that was like when David started to get like a trouble walking, and we didn't know yet that he has a Parkinson's, and it was like it was kind of like a strange. I wanted to walk a lot, and he couldn't really, and so then and then we found this kind of like, okay, let's go and find these streets with mathematician names. I wrote like actually about our Paris trip. I wrote like on blog posts, which are so then in Hague, when we visited Escher's museum or Escher's Palais. So then there is like this picture on the left. So that is deliberately taken because I forgot which year, but when he was in Canada in some conference, he met Escher's son, and Escher's son had told David, "Oh, your profile, you so much remind me about my father." So then when in Escher's museum, we found like this Escher's picture. So I tried to take it like, and so, well, okay, judge yourself how much it is or not. And then of course I had to take a picture with David holding this sphere and in Escher's. So we really had a fun. So well, another thing was like every time David would see rainbow, I would hear all about like that sun's angle and everything. So and I know that in his calculus classes there was like always this a problem about when do you see the rainbow, or in geometry. And so well, then for both of us, it was like we were kind of like looking about. We were thinking about, and which we later actually wrote, and it's also in this in our book in Experiencing Geometry. There is a chapter about 4 strands of geometry, and it was thinking from, well, what are the how people were thinking about geometry and how this knowledge started. And we started to think about it looking like really at in various museums, looking at the most oldest artifacts and trying to figure out like how those ornaments and how these decorations on these places were. So it's sometimes it was like a little competition between us, who is going to find what. So this is like we went to Edinburgh and find these Neolithic Platonic solids. I actually won a competition finding like spotted in metropolitan museums. There was on loan, and these are 3 stones from 7th millennium BC. I have no idea. They were on loan from some archaeological site, I think near the Dead Sea. So I wish, but there is no answer why it is. But well, clearly we can see there are parallel lines, and there are parallel lines crossed, and then there is an angle, you know, like, so there are four right angles on the other stone. So it's still most fascinating. It's one of my favorite pictures from our travels. And then it was actually exactly it was like 6 years ago on Martin Gardner's birthday, October 21st, when we were in Barcelona, and we had a chance to spend the day in Sagrada Familia. Of course, really enjoying all the Gaudi's geometry. And then it was like David again, like when he spotted the negative curvature on the right side, you can see that like a new tower being built. And so also that's a negative curvature there. And when we were inside and like enjoying all this light and all the play of light, actually I can tell you that if you are spending a day there, you know, like, and we were lucky, it was a sunny day, so there are so much play with a color and reflections, and they change how the sun is going around. But of course, while we are sitting there and enjoying that, so there is like, oh, David says, oh, see there is that spiral staircase. Can you take it all the way? So yes, you know, you can see nearby, close up, and then on the right side there is this whole staircase, how it goes. And of course, that's the most amazing place, was in a basement. That's where there was like all these geometrical models. And so David was like in a toy shop, and so well in enjoying and particularly when reading these Gaudi, how he said how important it was geometry for him. Yeah, so that was like a really. So when we got from Barcelona to Granada, and we were trying to get into Alhambra, and yes, well, here you see that occasionally he did so well. Now once in a while he did take pictures, he take it, and then I was like looking at his phone, what did he was taking, and that is like this like knots in this these tree roots. And of course, getting into Alhambra, that was like our dream. So, and when we actually we spent also 2 days there, because like the first time I didn't know how to get, so we had like sort of like through the tour guide, and but then once we got in, I explained to tour guides that we are mathematicians and we really want to go and pay attention more to all the ornaments. And yeah, so that was going through. So David was fascinating with various weave patterns, and then he would go and see where the weaves are, because he was noticing that there is like a different symmetries, and then the weaving is giving like these two-dimensional symmetries, but adding them, so sort of like another edge. And there is a half written. So he started to write it, and then he was going to put all these weave symmetries which he saw in Alhambra two together, and so that is something which I should do sometime. So I kind of like got behind that, and there were more symmetries, like when we were in 2017. That was when we went to Sicily third time, and that was like in March 2017. And then there is a lots of these various weaves and knots and what we were observing there. And so, and then so yes, I loved him that we found this Archimedes, and so there are like two geometers together, or like so well. And for me, I got fascinating actually, and in our travels, what I was looking is so this Ausek was in Latvian, and I was taught in school when I was in elementary school that this is very Latvian, very ancient, and so very important sign. But then I saw, and we were actually learning geometry on first grade. I still remember we were like on a graph paper, we were drawing various ornaments, and Latvian ornaments are just amazingly geometric. And another thing which we were trying to look at all these symmetries. But then I started to see these symmetries in a different things. So this is like on the left side, there is a that is from Paul Gerte's book of mathematics and ornaments in Mozambique. So well, on the right side, I even made a painting on that. Actually, I had a series of paintings I did with various ornaments. And then I noticed like the same ornament, you know, like this star. I noticed like in Indian patterns, and then over the centuries, artisans of Maghreb, of the west of Islamic world, explored a remarkable form language based on the square repeat, and in particular possibility was this eightfold katam, and which they called the breath of the compassionate. And then you can see that it's like, and the star appears there again. And actually, when I first thought about this talk, then I thought like I will be talking about these ornaments because, like, you know, it was just like really fascinating thing. But to find all these ornaments, I had to go through our travel pictures, and somehow this talk turned out as traveling with Mathematician, because it really was inspired. It really was inspired by David. So this is another of these Islamic ornaments, and we can see them everywhere. This is Ukrainian Easter eggs, and that is like a Palestinian vase, and so on. This is a Byzantine, and so there are some more Mexican and Estonian knitting, and even in a bark cloth. And now I was like kind of like going into the history of that, and then I found that the oldest thing is that the world's first goddess of love and war in ancient Mesopotamia, Ishtar in Akkadian or Inanna in Sumerian, and those were earliest poems written about 2300 BC about her. And then in lower on the left there is that Ishtar's gates in Berlin, and on the right that is from the Louvre, and then that is that oldest star where it appears. So this is like so this is essentially how we were traveling, like always seeing something mathematical, and always being pointed out like to, and I was like learning a lot of him. And thinking about this week, and also about like how we were traveling, I want to again say you, so remind his words that mathematics is a way of looking at your world. Take charge of it, make it yours. Understand how you see things and see how you understand things. Mathematics can say something about you. And after all this week, do not hurry. So think about like to get somewhere, linger a while and see what's around where you are. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Daina. I can't even tell you how many times I was smiling during your presentation as you were sharing your stories, and also feeling like I have new eyes and I'm going to go out into the world and be looking at things differently. So what I'd like to do is share out loud a few things that came in through the chat. When you were showing the photos early in the presentation with the various farm tools, Red put in the chat, I used to have one of those spiral auger things as a mailbox post. Pity any kid hitting that with a baseball bat. Then when you were showing the images, the photos from the Escher Museum, Dan said that he was talking, I think, about the one holding up the reflecting ball. That picture worked great. Also the picture with right in front of the photo of Escher with the resemblance. And we have comments, wonderful pictures. Wow. Rick says, wonderful photos, stories, and experiences in geometry. Thank you for the delightful presentation. We have outstanding. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Love this. Great photos. I'm getting down to the new questions, but I just want you to hear these. Thank you so much. The stories and photos are beautiful, wonderful, wonderful. Tyler says, must travel with a camera from now on. I agree with that. Adam says,
well, it's easier. It's easier now when you have an iPhone.
Yeah, that really makes a difference. Dan says, I used to get kicked out of my 8th grade Spanish class for drawing those 8 pointed stars. Kate says, all those photos are pure poetry. Thank you.
Well, it's also like this, the book, which is open source, like in Experiencing Geometry, like, yes, please look at that, because I also put the book pictures in there. So, and since it's not printed, so I didn't have really pressure of, well, how many pages are. So yes, so that's, yeah, I would like to promote that book, because one of the things is when you are writing open source, like nobody really cares to do any kind of like reviews, you know, like, and it feels, but it's, yeah, so it's I just want people to see how beautiful geometry is. Wonderful. And that's yeah, and that's in David's memory.
And speaking of David's memory, column says, what a fabulous collection of photos and memories. Treasure both. David was such a unique man. Kate asked, where can we get the book? It's priceless.
If you go to the Project Euclid, you can look, and they have put the book, which they call Books of Independent Authors. So the Project Euclid was actually, at the beginning, they were saying that this book will be print on demand, meaning that it would like cost only these like a printing costs, but they haven't done it, and I tried to contact them. So I also don't have like kind of like a printed, and it made it like in a book. So yes, but then this book with the pictures, you know, which like you saw it. So this one is still, you can just get on Amazon.
Yeah, and Colin says, I saw no pictures in 6 years of grad school at Cornell, yet returning a decade later for a workshop run by David, my eyes were finally opened. It changed how I thought. Thank you, David. I had a question. I was wondering, with the letters you were showing on the screen that were from David, were those personal correspondences from him to you, or who was he writing those to?
It's not a personal correspondence. This is his handwriting. So it's his handwriting, and that was which he was writing and copying it and giving to each student at the beginning of his class.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Wow.
Yeah, so that was introduction. He was setting it, you know, like setting a tone for a class, and that's how he was teaching. So there are there is some poetry he has written about geometry also. Yeah, so he was there. I wish he would write more. Yeah, so there would be more, and I'm kind of like a pasting together things. Yeah, so also in that open access book, yeah, so I put some of his thoughts on geometry too in there.
Wonderful. So Adam says, I think Tom Corner said somewhere that mathematics was about 1, proving the obvious, and 2, not using diagrams. Maybe the pleasures of counting, not sure. And then column asks, Corner without pictures. Do you have any response to that? Have you heard of that?
No, well, we first started to talk about like David after he gave a plenary talk in that geometry conference. And I approached him like as a plenary speaker because I was coming from Latvia and he was telling about teaching geometry experience in US, and I was in a shock. Because in Latvia, we had such a long geometry experience, you know, like I had the geometry since grade 7 until the end, you know, until like I graduated from a high school. That is 5 years of geometry. And so, and I was like telling him, you know, like how much, and I did had a more like this geometry experience, and I had the teachers who were always, I can't imagine geometry without any drawings and anything like seeing it was just, yeah, yes. And David was in his talk, he was talking about like, you know, how geometry is taught by these abstract 2-column profs, and I was like, what? So yeah, well, that was a beginning of everything.
Wow. And Adam added another follow-up comment to that, saying he was being facetious, I think. And then Daniela comments, I was doing undergraduate research with my students, visiting Vizcaya Museum in Miami and Indian Reservation art pieces, and of course, Escher paintings, and they designed recognition algorithms for the 17 wallpaper symmetries. Symmetries are everywhere.
Yeah, so there are various symmetries, and so yeah, no, the symmetry itself, I think it's one of those, like, I don't want to say the most, but that's one of the most important concepts, because like symmetries are so important everywhere. You know, like it's just math, physics, chemistry, well, biology, well, wherever.
And another comment from, I'm not sure of the name, I.R. Bivens, perhaps. My first differential geometry course had no pictures.
Yeah, well, so that's what David wrote, like this differential geometry, geometric introduction. And by the way, there was I was told there is a new book just came out about the differential geometry, and the author found David's proof, which he communicated to Roger Penrose and like who else? I was interviewed by Indian Mathematician, and there will be so they have a mathematical journal, Bahava, and there was like this interview, and then this interview he told me that, oh yeah, no, and he was asking others, and they had never seen such an elegant proof and geometric proof like of Gauss theorem egregium. And so, well, and so said like, okay, David would be happy to hear that, and that was like in his differential geometry book, which is also open source on Project Euclid.
Daina, this was fantastic. Thank you all for coming. This was so wonderful. Good night, Daina. Thank you.